I am famously known as the clumsy and affectionate wife within elite circles. In public, they respectfully address me as Mrs. Shen, yet behind closed doors, they mock me as a foolish romantic. What do they understand? My love for my husband is so profound that I cannot fathom life without him. Thus, when my husband brought home his pregnant mistress and boldly instructed me to care for her, I dutifully acquiesced, lowering my eyes in submission. Throughout the entirety of her pregnancy, I tended to both of them with utmost care. Ultimately, my husband's heart softened, and he returned to my side. Overwhelmed with joy, I shed tears of happiness and decided to celebrate by attending a gathering with him once more. Seated in his wheelchair, my husband trembled as he seized a moment, while I fetched drinks to seek assistance from his friends. Stop pretending, Shun. Who doesn't know that your wife is utterly devoted to you? Indeed, even after your disability, she remains by your side, eager to raise the child of your mistress, and still wishes to flaunt your affection with us? I leaned closer, my crimson-tipped nails brushing against his forehead, wiping away his cold sweat. Gazing into his fearful eyes, I placed the juice into his trembling hands. My dear husband, how could you harbor such thoughts of me? It is clear that my love for you knows no bounds. 01. When the grand entrance of the villa was forcefully kicked open, I was diligently washing the clothes that my husband, Xin Liui, was to wear the next day. Although we had a washing machine and domestic help, I preferred to take care of Xin Liui's affairs personally, as a testament to my love for him. Observing me with my hands drenched, he regarded me with disdain, tightening his embrace around his petite secretary. Why can't you rid yourself of this pathetic habit? Forget it. Xiaoya is pregnant. Be more attentive to her and stop being so reckless. With that, he seemed to regard me as filthy and sauntered towards the master bedroom, cradling Su Qingya. The glint of triumph in Su Qingya's eyes was unmistakable, yet she tugged at his sleeve. Brother Shen, aren't you afraid of making your sister angry? Angry? Xin Liui scoffed, his tone dripping with sarcasm. You don't know, do you? She loves me to death. Like a dog, really. Just ignore her, consider her a free housekeeper. After humiliating me, they departed, satisfied. Throughout this ordeal, I maintained a gentle smile, my hands continuing their rhythmic washing motion. Madam, are you truly not upset? Wang Ma, who had witnessed the entire scene, looked at me with pity and sympathy. I shook my head. How could I be angry? He wouldn't even consider divorcing me. He still loves me. Moreover, bringing his mistress home for me to care for is a form of acknowledgement. When the child is born, it will be his. And by extension, mine as well. Wang Ma's expression darkened at my naive proclamations, and with a sigh, she exited from the bedroom. The sounds of their boisterous laughter echoed as if to mock me. Yet I was unperturbed, finishing the washing and hanging the clothes out to dry before pushing open the door to the master bedroom. They seemed taken aback by my sudden intrusion, their affectionate gestures frozen mid-action. Have I interrupted you? My sincerest apologies for my recklessness. I merely wished to tidy up my belongings. I covered my mouth in feigned surprise, retreating with multiple apologies. Xin Liui, irritated by the interruption, was seething but, knowing my usual demeanor, gritted his teeth and commanded me to finish and leave. However, Su Qingya had no intention of letting me off that easily. She gracefully rose from Xin Liui's lap, condescendingly addressing me. Sister, your words are quite misplaced. Everything in this house was purchased with Shinji's money. He can give it to whomever he pleases. And, even if you demand it, you cannot take it. Her insinuation was clear as she gently patted her abdomen. But those clothes and jewelry are my possessions. I protested, feeling utterly wronged, biting my lip in defiance. Enough, enough. Xiaoya is correct. After all, it all belongs to me. What are you trying to snatch from her? Xin Liui's impatience overflowed as he waved me away. Go to the guest room. If you want something, just buy it. Xiaoya is pregnant, so be accommodating. My eyes brimmed with tears. Those were my carefully chosen treasures. Why must I relinquish them to Su Qingya? At least let me take this. I pointed to a sealed box at the bedside, containing a long-awaited gown. Su Qingya's eyes sparkled as she leaned against Xin Liui, playfully pouting. I want it too. Soon. I won't be able to wear it with a big belly. Get lost. Xin Liui barked at me, decisively claiming the gown for her. Reluctant to part with the dress, I nonetheless loved Xin Liui too dearly to provoke his displeasure, so I returned to the guest room, tears of frustration in my eyes. 02, despite my heartache. The next morning, I still prepared breakfast for Shinliui. To my dismay, upon seeing the delectable spread I had prepared, his expression soured. And he overturned all my hard work. Liao Letong, have you grown bolder? Did you forget that I told you to take care of Xiaoya? Su Qingya immediately squeezed out tears, feigning great distress, yet still appearing understanding. Brother Shin, don't be angry. I believe sister isn't holding a grudge against me for taking her things. She wouldn't intentionally try to upset me. Shinliui, incensed by her words, smashed a bowl in front of me, shards scattering and slicing my ankle. I gasped in pain, quickly bowing my head in submission. I'm sorry. I've been careless and forgot about that. Please don't be angry. It's not good for the baby. Whatever you want to eat, I'll make it right away. Noting my bleeding ankle, Shinliui's gaze hardened. If you know you've erred, then hurry up and rectify it. I warn you. If you wish to remain in this household as my wife, you better behave. With that, he pulled Su Qingya onto his lap, feeding her the untouched food. Oh dear. Sister is still here. Please don't do that. Su Qingya cooed, casting a triumphant glance my way. The two engaged in flirtatious banter as if I were invisible. And I pouted, retreating to the kitchen to prepare another unnecessary breakfast. Indeed, when I brought the new meal, it was met with disdain. And Su Qingya refused to eat it. After a prolonged period of discomfort, they left together for the company, returning only in the evening. Su Qingya donned the gown I had coveted, twirling before me in a showy display. So beautiful. That dress suits you perfectly. Giving it to someone else would be a waste. Shinliui's eyes sparkled with admiration, yet he couldn't resist mocking me. Xiaoya will accompany me to tonight's banquet. You stay home and don't embarrass me. Observing my simple home attire, he grimaced. TSK, some things are just innate. Your small-mindedness is hard to shake off. I nervously twisted the hem of my clothing, feeling wronged, but I am your wife. At my words, Shinliui grew even more agitated, raking his fingers through his hair. He glanced at Su Qingya, who appeared on the verge of tears due to my statement, and ultimately dismissed my plea. Enough, you've been to these events before. What is the harm in letting Xiaoya have her moment? Remember to prepare the hangover soup and her late-night snack. Stop wasting time. With his command, I had no choice but to acquiesce, though my spirit felt dismal. To compensate, Shinliui transferred a substantial sum into my account, assuaging his guilt before departing with Su Qingya. That evening at the gala, amidst the splendor and clinking of glasses, Shinliui listened to the praise from those around him about himself and his companion, yet he seemed somewhat distracted. Mr. Shin is fortunate, with a successful career and such a beautiful wife. One guest remarked, only to be quickly corrected by another, but Su Qingya chuckled. Oh, I'm not Brother Shin's wife. But I appreciate your kind words. Perhaps that will change soon. Shinliui, however, reacted unusually, his expression darkening as he reprimanded her not to speak foolishly. Pampered by him, Su Qingya, now pregnant, pulled away from his grasp, stomping her foot in a huff as she felt he was undermining her in front of others. Shinliui, flustered, reached for her, and in the ensuing tussle, the atmosphere grew increasingly intimate. Just as Su Qingya tilted her head to seek a kiss from Shinliui, she suddenly felt a chill. 03. In the midst of the crowd, Su Qingya's gown tore apart like a rag, cascading from her body. The earlier quarrel had drawn the attention of most present, and nearly everyone stood in stunned silence, eyes wide with disbelief. Su Qingya screamed, attempting to gather the fabric to shield herself, yet the material only disintegrated further at her touch. In desperation, she squatted down, seizing Shinliui's suit jacket to cover herself, her rage directed at the onlookers. You are not allowed to look. If you do, I'll have Shinga take care of you. Initially sympathetic, Shinliui withdrew his hand at her outburst, fully aware that many present were individuals he could not afford to offend. At this moment, all the pity he felt transformed into fury as he deemed Su Qingya ungrateful for causing him such humiliation. With a face ashen with rage, he gestured to those around him, and soon he dragged Su Qingya away from the banquet in a most undignified manner. In the private room, Shinliui erupted at Su Qingya, demanding, "What on earth do you want? You can cause a ruckus at any other time. But must you disgrace me in such a setting?" This time, Su Qingya truly wept, her tears cascading like rain as she collapsed to the ground, apologizing earnestly. "I'm sorry, Brother Shin. I thought you no longer loved me. I truly didn't mean it. Kneeling beside him, she clung to his legs, pledging her loyalty. Only then did Shen Liui's anger begin to dissipate. He had someone fetch emergency clothing, but then he heard Su Qingya's words take a sudden turn. I've been exposed. I don't want to live anymore. Brother Shin, you won't despise me, will you? Oh, and the dress, it must have been faulty. My sister must resent me for taking her things. The remnants of Shin Liui's guilt evaporated entirely. He returned home with the aggrieved Su Qingya, ready to confront her, only to find a sumptuous late-night meal prepared on the table. It was a spread he had instructed to be made for Su Qingya, rich in variety and flavor, accompanied by his hangover soup. I had been waiting for him, eventually falling asleep at the table, only to awake at the sound of his arrival. Darling, you're back? Shin Liui's throat tightened, yet he pressed on with his accusation. Was this deliberate? Did you want to embarrass Xiaoya at the banquet? Liao Letong. I never imagined you to be such a vengeful woman. What are you talking about? I blinked innocently. I wasn't even there. How could I harm her? Besides, you know how much I love you. I care for everything associated with you. How could I possibly wish ill upon your sister? Shen Liui's ire subsided in an instant. He was fully aware of my affections for him, hence his audacity to bring his mistress into our home and demand my care. It was as if I were a relentless adhesive, willing to endure any indignity just to remain by his side. He tried to suppress the peculiar feeling rising within him and coldly inquired, "Then explain why that dress fell apart on its own?" After a moment of contemplation, I gently tapped my forehead. It's my fault. I completely forgot. That dress was a prototype sent by my designer friend, crafted from the latest biodegradable materials. I wanted to take it with me, but you insisted. At the banquet, Su Qingya perspired, and given the fabric's delicate nature, combined with her vigorous movements, it simply fell apart, didn't it? Knowing my usual clumsiness, Shin Liui's temples throbbed, making it difficult for him to blame me further. Just then, Su Qingya tugged at his arm, whispering shyly in his ear. After listening, Shin Liui frowned and shot me a glance, saying, "Since you recognize your mistake, you shall atone for it. Go purchase lubricant and condoms. Xiaoya and I will be needing them." This undoubtedly trampled my dignity, leaving Shin Liui uncertain whether I would be angered. Deep down, he even hoped I might refuse. I gazed at him incredulously, my eyes brimming with sorrowful tears. After a moment's hesitation, I resolved to leave. Damn, Liao Letong, are you truly this wretched? Sounds of objects being hurled and Su Qingya's panicked cries echoed behind me. I sighed and turned back, tears welling at the corners of my eyes. I've told you I love you and I would do anything for you. With that, I left without a backward glance. Upon my return, they had already ascended the stairs, lost in their fervor in the bedroom. I bit my lip and climbed up, but stumbled, dropping the lubricant, the cap bursting open upon impact. My knee grazed against the floor, exposing tender skin to the heiress sting. Yet, unwilling to keep Shin Liui waiting, I endured the pain and delivered the items before retreating to my room to tend to my injury. In the master bedroom, Su Qingya was coiled around Shin Liui like a limp vine, her tone sultry. "Brother, the doctor said 4 months is fine. Take it easy, it's all right." Shin Liui, equally enticed, lifted Su Qingya slightly, grinning mischievously. "You little temptress, still flirting with me? You'll be begging for mercy later." As the two became increasingly engrossed, Shin Liui eagerly reached for the items from the bag. It was Su Qingya who first sensed something amiss. After a chilling sensation, she began to feel a sharp pain. Assuming it was merely due to her long absence from intimacy, she overlooked the discomfort and continued to engage with Shin Liui. Shin Liui, having endured his own share of torment, was also unrestrained. However, before he could fully engage, a relentless, stinging pain in his most intimate area left him utterly deflated. What on earth did Liao Letong buy? With discomfort and itchiness overwhelming him, he instinctively reached down, but found nothing to alleviate his suffering. Even as pain persisted in his lower regions. Su Qingya was no better. She hastily turned on the lights to inspect, yet found nothing amiss. The pain was unbearable. Any movement resulted in further agony, and touching only exacerbated it. Thus, they were reluctantly compelled to seek medical attention in the dead of night. Upon discovering the cause, the doctor wore a peculiar expression, yet after an examination, he found no injuries or bleeding. Ultimately, he dismissed it as either psychological factors or an allergic reaction. Both endured the pain, feeling embarrassed and anxious, nearly clashing with the attending physician. Meanwhile, I enjoyed a restful night's sleep, waking to prepare breakfast, only to notice the stains on the floor. I gasped, staring at the shimmering patch. Yesterday, when Xinliui had overturned the table, several chopsticks had snapped, revealing shards of glass fibers. These minute, almost invisible strands, once embedded in flesh, were exceedingly difficult to remove, even for a doctor. Could it be that the broken bottle of lubricant had coincidentally mixed with the glass fibers? Alas. It was my fault. My carelessness and negligence led to a lack of proper cleanup and my subsequent fall. After tidying up and having breakfast, I prepared to leave, only to encounter Xinliui and Su Qingya. Both bore the signs of a restless night, their faces drawn with exhaustion. Xinliui looked as if he had been subjected to relentless torment. He cast a glance at my niece injury, frowning in silence. Su Qingya, too, appeared disinterested in my presence, struggling to ascend the stairs. I blinked innocently, watching the weary pair depart. Brother Xin, do you think Liao Letong is deliberately trying to harm us? Finally, Su Qingya reached her breaking point. The thought of enduring this relentless pain indefinitely filled her with irritation. Impossible. Xinliui, equally vexed, lit a cigarette and adjusted his posture to minimize contact with the fabric. Even if she plotted against us, she would never wish me harm. Pfft, she loves me too much to ever inflict pain. Su Qingya concurred, recognizing that my meekness made it all too easy for her to assume the role of the mistress without any sense of accomplishment. She pouted, perhaps in a few days, the pain will subside. However, I don't want her serving me during this time. Thus, for the following month, they ceased their antics. Xinliui remained under my care, while Su Qingya's needs were entrusted to Wang Ma. We cohabited under the same roof, a rare semblance of harmony prevailing. Yet, as the relentless pain gradually waned, leaving only occasional twinges, Su Qingya could no longer contain herself, pressing Xinliui to divorce me and marry her. Stop right there. I can give you anything else you desire. This, however, is non-negotiable. Upon hearing Xinliui's response, Su Qingya wept, threw tantrums, and even resorted to threatening him with the child she carried, yet all her efforts proved futile. Indeed, only Xinliui and I are privy to the fact that he would never broach the subject of divorce. After all, nurturing a canary within the confines of society is hardly deemed scandalous. However, bringing a divorce into the public eye would yield no benefit for him whatsoever. Not to mention the prolonged disputes over asset division. Our wedding was grand and lavish, and he reaped countless advantages from my family, a fact that is almost common knowledge. Furthermore, the news of my parents' dying wish being entrusted to him only adds to the weight of his reputation. Should he divorce me due to infidelity, his standing and stock prices would undoubtedly plummet. Thus, even if he could accompany Su Qingya to social gatherings, it would be confined to his circle and never exposed to the public. Lost in thought, Xinliui found himself reflecting on the woman who had devoted herself to him unwaveringly through the years, treating him like a deity. And a twinge of guilt arose within him. Yet, this fleeting remorse dissipated quickly as Su Qingya, with her apologies and feigned innocence, distracted him from it. As her belly began to show, she no longer regarded me, the weak original wife who posed no threat. Moreover, given my exceptional culinary skills, she no longer concealed her true intentions, even encouraging Xinliui to grant Wang Ma time off, effectively treating me as a servant. This marked the 7th time she had roused me from my slumber in the dead of night, clamoring for soup. I understood her sole purpose was to torment me. Even though pregnant women are prone to hunger, there are quicker and more convenient options available. Yet, she insisted that I remain by the stove, tending to her needs with a small clay pot, never allowing me a moment's respite. Xinliui expressed his dissatisfaction with this arrangement, but out of consideration for Su Qingya's condition, he opted to placate me with money instead. To him, I was merely an object, unworthy of occupying space. Su Qingya lightly slapped my cheek, her eyes brimming with malice. She reached for the steaming clay pot and asked, "Do you think if I scald myself, Xinge would blame you?" Her gaze bore into my face, as if she anticipated my submission. Fear gripped me, and in a flustered state, I stood to intervene, only to lose my footing and inadvertently press her wayward hand onto the pot. In an instant, Su Qingya's scream echoed throughout the villa. Her delicate hand was nearly scorched, and she shoved me away, her face contorted in pain as she rushed to cool it under cold water. Xinliui was awakened by the commotion and with displeasure. He surveyed the chaotic scene in the kitchen, admonishing, Su Qingya, what are you causing a ruckus about now? What did you say? Su Qingya's eyes widened in disbelief, momentarily forgetting her pain. You allow her to bully me like this, and you dare to scold me? Was it not your intent to incite this chaos? Xinliui rubbed his temples, having endured much since Su Qingya developed a penchant for midnight snacks. On several occasions, she had complained about the soup being too salty or bland, blaming it on Liao Litong's supposed negligence. Yet, upon closer inspection, it was clear that her complaints were mere capriciousness. I take full responsibility. It was my clumsiness that caused the incident with little sister Xiaoya, I stammered. Liao Letong. Do not make excuses for her. She simply takes advantage of her pregnancy to create havoc. Besides, after so many disturbances, had she truly wished harm upon herself, she would have acted long ago. This weakness of yours renders you incapable of causing any harm. Xinliui, having spoken, reached for Su Qingya's injured hand, prompting another cry of distress from her. Only then did he notice the severity of her injury. The back of her hand was a fiery red, and a blister the size of an egg was beginning to form. Without further ado, Xinliui rushed Su Qingya to the hospital. Due to her pregnancy, many medications were off limits for Su Qingya, and she was advised to rest properly. She returned home, listless in Xinliui's company, and when she encountered me, her eyes held a mixture of trepidation and suspicion, devoid of her previous arrogance. She no longer dared to provoke me, for no matter how I explained, Xinliui would perceive her sulking demeanor as mere jealousy and unreasonable fussing. Xinliui even lamented that her antics had drained my energy, ruining a shirt he needed for business meetings. Su Qingya caught a glimpse of my true nature, fearful that I might harm the child she carried, redirecting all her efforts toward Xinliui. Upon returning home one day, Xinliui sampled the meal I had prepared and frowned in displeasure. Liao Letong. Why is this dish so unpalatable? I fidgeted nervously, hastily explaining, This isn't my doing. It was little sister Xiaoya who prepared it. Su Qingya, having labored in the kitchen for hours, received only a disparaging remark, yet she dared not express her frustration, forcing a strained smile as she approached. Xinge, I was concerned about you working so hard each day. I wanted to cook for you, to nourish you. Her gaze swept over me. I can hardly move with this belly, unlike my sister who can freely shop and pamper herself. Her intentions were transparent, clearly aiming to usurp my position. Yet Xinliui showed no appreciation for her efforts, sternly advising her to refrain from overexerting herself during her pregnancy. Truth be told, it was impossible not to feel touched by Su Qingya's willingness to toil for him, but the food was simply not to his liking. He had no desire to return home after a long day only to be met with such fare. After all, who else could understand him and cater to his needs as well as Liao Letong? In this vein of thought, he unexpectedly smiled at me, praising my culinary skills. Like a pet receiving affection from its master, I nestled against him, reveling in his approval. This, of course, darkened Su Qingya's expression entirely. Yet, she was not ready to concede defeat. Xinliui was beginning to grow weary of her, and if she did not act swiftly, once the child was born, I would merely be an afterthought. She needed to devise a plan to eliminate me before the birth. In the following days, Su Qingya altered her strategy. Her already striking features softened due to her pregnancy, and with a touch of makeup, she exuded a maternal elegance. Gone was her past petulance and jealousy. She transformed into Xinliui's confidant, embodying gentleness and understanding. Xinliui's frustrations from work dissipated in her presence, as if he were submerged in warm water, enveloped in comfort. He began to rely on Su Qingya, readily acquiescing to her requests to accompany her to prenatal checkups. I found myself relegated once again to the role of their servant. 7 months into her pregnancy, Su Qingya initiated her counterattack. Following meals I had prepared, she would suddenly be beset by uncontrollable vomiting, and she would feign falling on freshly cleaned floors. Each incident was orchestrated to garner attention, resulting in multiple calls for ambulances, yet after thorough examinations, nothing was amiss. Woo-woo. Xinge, is it possible that sister is hexing our child? Su Qingya asked, her eyes red from retching, resembling a pitiful little rabbit as she clutched Xinliui's sleeve, her voice trembling. I do not wish to think of her that way, but every time we are together, my baby feels unwell. Her hand rested on her round belly, fear and anxiety glimmering in her eyes. Shinryoi was visibly moved. He pulled me aside, lowering his voice, half threatening, half soothing, before Shioya gives birth. You should go to the villa in Linyuan. After he spoke, he observed my dejected expression, swallowing hard. I will transfer ownership to you. Do not worry. Once the child is born, I will personally bring you back. Behind Shinryoi, Tsuchinya cast a triumphant glance in my direction. It was as if she were saying, See, no matter how humble you are or how much you fawn over him, you cannot compete with my delicate whims. She intended to firmly secure Shinryoi's affections during these months, leaving me to become a forsaken woman. I was left in shock and sorrow. My tear-filled eyes fixed on Shinryoi, my voice choked with emotion. You cannot do this. You know how deeply I love you. I cannot live without you. Now you intend to cast me out of our home? Are you trying to drive me to my death? Shinryoi's eyes revealed a flicker of emotion. His lips parted and closed as if he were about to plead for my return, but just then, Tsuchinya abruptly tugged at him. She let out a dry heave. Her gaze upon me filled with trepidation, as though I were the source of her torment. Shinryoi shut his eyes momentarily, but still directed a command at me. Be obedient. For now, everything revolves around the child, understood? Upon seeing my reluctance, my hesitant gaze lingering on him, he lost his temper. With a darkened expression, he ordered Wang Ma to pack my belongings, shoving me out as though I were refuse. Before I departed, Tsuchinya smugly remarked, Sister, I bid you farewell, but I wonder if there will still be a place for you in this household upon your return. I collapsed before the firmly shut door, but no amount of pleading or crying could sway Shinryoi's resolute decision to expel me. It was only in the evening, with heavy reluctance, that I left, glancing back repeatedly. Tsuchinya watched from above, her delight unmistakable. How splendid it would be for her to seize this opportunity and completely oust me from the picture. Little did she know. My departure was merely the harbinger of her impending misfortune. Liao Litong's absence left Shinryoi feeling an overwhelming emptiness within the house. Yet, Tsuchinya proved to be exceedingly clingy, insisting he choose baby clothes and toys, thus reminding him of his impending role as a father. He began to feel remorseful for his cruelty towards Tsuchinya, realizing that even with the birth of the child, he could not afford her the recognition she deserved, leaving her to endure the indignity of being by his side without status. Consequently, he endeavored to suppress his discomfort and devoted himself to caring for Tsuchinya wholeheartedly. Tsuchinya reveled in her newfound freedom, adopting the demeanor of a lady of the house, barking orders at the servants, and prematurely embracing the lifestyle of a wife. However, just as she fantasized about my downfall, calamity struck. A puddle of water caused her to tumble heavily to the ground, landing unceremoniously on her abdomen. Her piercing wails echoed throughout the villa as she faced an unfortunate fate. Despite immediate medical intervention, she not only failed to save the child's life, but also lost her own uterus. Upon awakening from surgery, the news shattered Tsuchinya's sanity. She wreaked havoc, destroying everything within reach, unable to accept that her golden ticket to the affluent life had vanished so effortlessly. Ultimately, she directed her wrath towards me. It's her fault. It must be that wretched Liao Letong. She has cursed me. Though Shinryoi felt sorrow for her and for the child who had never drawn breath, he deemed her outburst absurd. You have already expelled her. Is that not enough? Stop this nonsense. Your priority now is to recuperate. Nonsense? Tsuchinya's bloodshot eyes glinted with a sinister mirth as she regarded Shinryoi. Who else would wish to harm me? That child was your flesh and blood. And you dare speak for that harlot? Grabbing a nearby cup, she hurled it at Shinryoi, who narrowly evaded it, sustaining a scratch on his forehead. Call the police. I demand justice. Why must my child die while that wretched woman still breathes? I want her uterus. As she raved, her hands clawed at the air, as if grasping for my very life. Shinryoi's temper flared. You've lost your mind. I assure you, this has nothing to do with Liao Letong. But despite his attempts to intervene, Tsuchinya reported me to the authorities, accusing me of intentional harm. At the police station, I wept profusely. I truly had no idea. Tsuchiya has already expelled me from her home. Why can't she let me be? I wouldn't dare return home. How could I possibly harm her? The officers, confronted with my alibi and the surveillance footage from the villa, could only shake their heads in pity at Tsuchinya's hysteria. She, in turn, lunged at me. Her fury unleashed, I refused to believe it. If you didn't tamper with things, how could there have been a sudden puddle? At that moment, I, the legitimate wife, appeared more wretched than the mistress, trembling as I sought refuge behind the officers. It's my fault. The air conditioning was malfunctioning, causing condensation to drip. I had intended to call for repairs, but I was careless and forgot. See, I told you she did it on purpose. You owe me, compensate for my child. Compensate for my uterus. Enough. Xin Liu's thunderous voice interrupted her, his fleeting compassion evaporating in the face of her madness. Now, all he felt was embarrassment. After apologizing, he forcibly led the still-shouting Su Qingya out of the police station, only to find a throng of reporters waiting outside. Mr. Xin, is it true that you expelled your original wife from your home for the sake of your mistress? And this is Miss Su, correct? Do you not feel a pang of guilt for your infidelity? The reporters' questions were sharp, their microphones nearly thrust into their faces. I discreetly retreated behind them, lamenting my own carelessness in mistakenly sending a message meant for a friend to this horde of journalists. Xin Liu's expression darkened as he attempted to push through the crowd. But Su Qingya, refusing to relent, cried out, "What mistress? We are true love. I am the future Mrs. Xin. We will marry one day." Having lost her child and her ability to bear more, she resorted to this desperate gamble, hoping Xin Liu truly loved her more. Before she could voice further claims, Xin Liu silenced her with a hand over her mouth, dragging her into the car. As I emerged with reddened eyes to face the reporters, I declared that this was all a misunderstanding. I love my husband, and he loves me. As for Miss Su, she may have been drawn by my husband's excellence, leading her to err. I urged the public not to blame her or be overly harsh with my husband. My forced smile belied the sorrow and heartbreak in my eyes, clearly lacking sincerity. Once this video circulated online, it ignited a firestorm of debate. Some condemned me as a hopeless romantic, deserving of being a mere caretaker for the mistress's child. Others hailed me as the epitome of a good woman, loyal and unwavering, always mindful of my husband's reputation. Xin Liu, clearly swayed by the latter perspective, felt an illicit sense of satisfaction. See? No matter what, Liao Letong continues to love and protect him. Unlike that shallow-witted Su Qingya. After dealing with Su Qingya, Xin Liu rushed me back to the company to manage the ensuing public relations crisis. In the live stream, he embraced me, his expression tender. All of this is due to Su Qingya's unscrupulous attempts to seduce me, yet I remain loyal to my marriage, never straying. His impassioned words brought tears to my eyes, and I nodded in agreement. The label of seduction had firmly attached itself to Su Qingya. Alas, I couldn't help but feel pity for her. Young and now tarnished, her health compromised, her uterus lost, what would become of her? Yet, since my beloved husband had spoken, I resolved to accept the situation. On our way home, I exited the car early, claiming I would buy ingredients to prepare a celebratory feast. Xin Liu, visibly touched, grasped my hand, his eyes glistening with rare emotion. Tong Tong, having you by my side is truly wonderful. I am grateful for my steadfastness. I was not deceived by that foolish woman, nor did I divorce you. Rest assured, only you can be the mother of my child. Su Qingya lost her child. It serves her right. I was taken aback, my cheeks flushed as I lingered with him for a while before alighting from the car. Xin Liu, buoyed by his own charm, was oblivious to my clumsiness and inadvertently knocked over a drink bottle on the cup holder as he exited the vehicle. Half an hour later, I received a call from the police. Are you the wife of Mr. Xin Liu? Your husband has been in an accident and is currently at the downtown hospital. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably as I rushed to the hospital. The police informed me that the drink bottle had jammed the brakes, leading to Xin Liu colliding with a tree on the roadside while trying to avoid a truck. The good news was that his life was not in danger. The bad news, however, was that he would lose the use of his legs and spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. Faced with Xin Liu's numerous friends and the media, I was on the verge of fainting at his bedside. I will never abandon my husband. I will care for him for life. Xin Liu was moved by my words. Perhaps he realized that there would be no one else as devoted as I. He choked back tears and vowed publicly to have such a wife is enough for this life. Tong Tong, I will treat you well from now on. Consequently, as his wife, I took the reins of Xin Liu's company, shouldering all responsibilities. Whether it was his friends, hospital staff, or online commentators, none failed to commend me as a good wife. Xin Liui shared the sentiment. Despite his physical affliction, the mere sight of me provided him solace. This illusion persisted until he was discharged from the hospital and I wheeled him back home. The villa was eerily empty. All the servants, including Wang Ma, had been dismissed by me. In the vast space, it was just the two of us, and Xin Liui felt a pang of anxiety. He turned to me with a conciliatory smile, only to be abruptly pushed by my clumsiness, causing him to tumble to the ground. He struggled to rise, wriggling like a helpless worm. Sighing, I couldn't help but shed tears. "Husband, it's all my fault. I was too careless." "No, you mustn't blame yourself," Xin Liui began. But I interrupted him. "It's my fault. With your condition, you can no longer have children." "What did you say?" Xin Liui exclaimed, incredulous. I wiped my tears and explained, "You know how clumsy I can be. While preparing nourishing soup for you, I accidentally added tuberculosis medication instead of the health tonic. The doctor said you cannot conceive now or ever." Upon hearing this, Xin Liui rolled his eyes and fainted. When he regained consciousness, he found himself in bed, humiliatingly without pants, wearing an adult diaper. "Husband, you can understand, right? I have to manage the company and cannot tend to you constantly. This is for the best." Though I spoke these words, my busy schedule often made me forget he was still in bed. Xin Liui was left to endure the indignity of sitting in his own waste daily. He attempted to lessen his humiliation by eating less, but to no avail. After all, I would always ensure he consumed 2 large bowls of soup before I left each day. This experience was deeply humiliating, shattering his pride. Despite having a phone to communicate with the outside world, he was too ashamed to seek help, unwilling to reveal his predicament. Gradually, he became aware of many realities, such as the bottle of lubricant laced with fiberglass and the presence of reporters. Yet, he found himself unable to detach from me. After all, who else would care for him so meticulously despite his disabilities? No one, for my love for him was profound. 2 months later, I had taken complete control of Xin Liui's company. After all, it had once been mine as well. With my contribution and my parents' initial funding, the company was rightfully mine. Unfortunately, in the 2nd year of our marriage, Xin Liui began to stray, gradually sidelining me from the company. After my parents' passing, he became even more unrestrained. However, given my love for him, how could I possibly leave him empty-handed and humiliated? Initially, I was a hysterical woman, arguing with Xin Liui daily, throwing things, driving him to the brink of exasperation. He coldly remarked, "Liao Le Tong, you need to understand your position. So what if the startup capital came from your family? We founded this company together. If I wished, you would not see a single cent. Be obedient, and we can maintain our dignity. You can continue to live as my wealthy idol." Thus, I genuinely learned to comply. After all, I loved him, as long as he remained by my side. I could endure anything. As our wedding anniversary approached, I enlisted some reporters and marketing accounts to showcase our love, clumsily presenting him with an extravagant anniversary gift. From that moment on, it became widely known that half of Xin Liui's fortune was tied to me. He was frustrated and angry, but the loyalty of our relationship proved beneficial for company publicity, leaving him with no choice but to accept it. In retrospect, it seems that a woman who listens to her husband is the happiest. I complied with his wishes, refraining from quarrels, and indeed, I managed to keep him close. Now, with his legs disabled, Xin Liui had been stripped of his social standing. He had become entirely dependent on me, a mere dog begging for my affection. With such a state, he could hardly make waves, and I felt secure taking him to gatherings to flaunt our love. I heard his desperate pleas. Tossing my hair, I picked up a glass of mango juice, to which he was allergic, smiling as I handed it to him. "Husband, what nonsense are you talking? I love you so much, how could I harm you?" Xin Liui, trembling, forced a smile as he stared at the juice, afraid to drink. "Go on, drink," I urged. "Husband, don't you love me?" Tears welled in his eyes. If he drank that juice, he would either end up in the hospital or worse. He knew I was doing this deliberately. He brought the cup to his lips, and under my eager gaze and immense pressure, he lost control. An overwhelming stench filled the air, causing Xin Liui's former friends to frown, their faces betraying hints of disdain. Meanwhile, I, his devoted and caring wife, showed no disgust, promptly changing his diaper. The gathering ended abruptly, with everyone leaving in haste, avoiding eye contact with Xin Liui. the light in his eyes extinguished. But that was merely the beginning. I wiped the tears from his face, smiling sweetly. We have many days ahead of us, and my love for you is far from diminished. The end. Thank you for listening. I look forward to sharing the next story with you.